Welcome back, YouTube. We're on another one of these progression casts, but just to quickly catch people up who maybe have just wandered into this video and you missed the first few, I'll be linking the full playlist up here, of course, but we started casting AlphaStar at its unranked level, and we've been following it through each game, Platinum, Diamond, etc. And now we're at Masters level to see how this game will go in this progression series. But before we start, I do need to not ask, I'm gonna tell you, hit that subscribe button. It's so freaking hard. I'm in a race to get to 10,000 subscribers before a Starcraft friend of mine, Wardy, aka Lord Commander Poop Butt. So please don't let him beat me. Hit the subscribe button if you like these videos. I'm gonna keep putting them out. I've already put out hundreds. Let's do hundreds of more. So that being said, let's hop into the game. To the bottom right, we have the blue Zerg. It is, of course, the one and only AlphaStar. Way too much reverb. Let's turn that down a little bit as we introduce the player to the top left, the red Protoss, honing in at the Master Player level of play. This is an interesting step forward for AlphaStar, though. We obviously know the spoiler alert of this. AlphaStar does get to Grandmaster, obviously, and plays several games at a high level. But for me, it's the journey getting there that we haven't really visited yet that we're seeing for the first time. And that was kind of like, how does AlphaStar improve with each of these games? It's obviously not a linear chart that we can watch super easily, where it's like, oh, well, AlphaStar couldn't split its Zerglings before, but now it can. Nothing that simple. But it is really neat watching because, again, for me, a seasoned StarCraft fan who watches and puts out a lot of these games, I commentate hundreds, thousands of games, it's so real. It's so weird how real it is. And I know in some of the other versions of Alpha Go and whatever the chess one was and stuff, those games have real hard parameters. There's not really a lot of wiggle room, right? But StarCraft 2 has thousands of possibilities, hundreds of ways builds could go, and units could be controlled, and the games can play out. Like, sure, for pro players, there's really not that many builds. There's like 3 or 4 that are practical in any play style. I'm not trying to make this seem like some fantasy StarCraft world that doesn't really exist, but my point is, with every drone that moves, with every piece of this puzzle that goes in, there's just so many different directions this game can go. Then you add into the fact that the player is going to be affecting those decisions too, with things like that pylon block forcing it to go for the third base over here. It's just, I don't know. I get really passionate about this stuff, I guess. Call me a nerd, whatever you like. I love watching the most complex game I know get figured out in a way that it can be mimicked by an artificial intelligence. Even with Dota and some of the other games where there was other AIs that took on the pros, this is not our game versus their game thing, but StarCraft 2 is objectively way more complex and more difficult than almost every other game out there. You ask any pro from any scene, they will almost unanimously agree. Not that StarCraft's the most popular, not that StarCraft is the best or anything like this, but StarCraft is without a doubt one of the most difficult games to handle and master. And it's just so cool that they've been able to do this. And I know Deepmind doesn't have a lot of plans to make this big public version of AlphaStar where anyone can do anything with it. Nothing like that is in the future for AlphaStar, but I think it'd be so cool to have this as a training resource. Our already top tier players like Cyril, you know, at BlizzCon, he played against it like 5 or 6 times, and I gotta imagine that was the equivalent of like an intense training workout session. You're just not gonna get that burn. You're not gonna feel that same practice against humans. And then what was cool is you saw AlphaStar actually adapt one of you saw Cyril adapt one of AlphaStar's builds into Home Story Cup, where I think it was game 3 in the finals. He used one of the builds, and Artosis even recognized it and asked him about it directly on Twitter, and Cyril was like, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So anyways, that gets really far away, a huge tangent, but getting back to the game, we have 2 adepts about to smack their way in here, and a Masters level player I would expect to get some drone kills. This is going to be at least 4 drones, probably way more. AlphaStar has nothing at home to defend. Those Lings were on the other side of the map, slamming into a wall, unfortunately. So not accomplishing much. Really good SimCity by our human, by the way. But about 6 workers, almost 7. Doesn't quite get the last shot. 6 workers go down. And beyond this, the third base was put off. The natural still not finished up. I mean, any player, human or AI, would have their build absolutely disrupted by moves like this. So kudos to our human putting up not just a real challenge, but a very difficult opening for AlphaStar to have dealt with. But all things considered, both players are on similar worker count. This is huge because, of course, we've talked about AlphaStar's macro to death, to the point where I'm sure someone out there is writing a comment as I'm saying this, like, I'm so sick of you saying the same things, talking points over and over and over, get a new script. No, nothing like that. It's just, it's really interesting because we know AlphaStar's strengths, regardless of what rank it's been at, and it's been its macro. So until it starts snowballing ahead there, I don't know that it's got a for sure win rate. Or win percentage here, I guess, against our human, who, by the way, is going for their own third. They're going to be a little bit behind in drones versus probes for a moment, but then that's going to get bridged here by this attack. 2 adepts to go for the mineral line, while Stalker and Zealot pokes, I guess. Although, I'm not sure. This is a very strange drop. It's enough to kill queens. There's no question about that. But what are the adepts going to do? Okay, they transfer over for the mineral lines, and they go for some kills on the drones. The Zealot and the Stalker are kind of whatever. The Warp Prism will not want to sacrifice itself here. This doesn't actually kill that many workers, so ultimately not a great use of the attack. Ooh, getting an Overlord, though, actually helps make this a little bit more worthwhile in the end. That's a supply block on AlphaStar, who is starting to dart out on the field with units. This is a terrible time to be supply blocked, no matter who you are or what you are. Natural base is covered, too. Force fields will hold that ramp, so there's, or excuse me, that hole. There's some vulnerability at the third, but AlphaStar doesn't know about this, actually. Between being pulled back home and the Overlords being killed out on the map, scouting has been denied in a pretty big way from AlphaStar in this game. But still moving towards a fourth and handling things well enough. Both players are spending a lot of their money, and this is without a doubt, obviously, higher level you go, the better the games will be. But this is the best game we've seen out of our human versus AlphaStar situation in this ladder progression so far. I do worry about this fourth. It feels a little exposed, but if Larva is the name of the game, because AlphaStar is not producing drones, producing army, then this could be a very, very good base. A little bit of long distance mining going on, but nothing too big. 16 more lings are on the way. I don't think we have a baneling nest, do we? Not that it'd be super useful, but it's just good to know whether it's an option or not. Sorry about the lack of speaking, just had a coughing fit. Thank God for the mute button. Remember to drink water, guys. Don't get sick like poor old Rifkin. Now this was a good drone stack near the shield battery. Reduces the amount of kills here, but still ends up losing quite a few probes to this. Depths are warped into the main base as well, and this will be handled. It just took longer than anyone would have liked. This was great for AlphaStar though, because such a small commitment in Zerglings like this was able to completely bring that army back home. It stopped the push and it forced warp-ins at home, which further take away the strength from the front line. So while moments ago, our Protoss player had an army formidable enough to tackle AlphaStar, I don't know if that's still the case. This isn't necessarily a type battle as it often is with Protoss versus Zerg. There's not 40 roaches coming up against 10 immortals. There's actually tons of lings. A ton of lings can do a lot of damage. Oh, unless they get caught in a horrible force field. Okay, this is a really good cleanup for human in this case. But then while this goes on, oh god, infestation everywhere else. Lings slip in through the front door. Lings in the natural. Lings heading to the main. That worker kill count, by the way, which was a meager like 10 moments ago, is now 45 plus probes. And in one slip up, in one wall being opened up with a door there, this game fell apart for our human. I think AlphaStar had maybe a 50-50 chance of a direct army engagement, but splitting the forces of the human and splitting them so thin so they couldn't respond properly to any kind of harassment, and then also hitting all 3 locations was a really nice move out of AlphaStar. Mwah. I just did the Italian thing where I kissed my hands. I don't know why I did that. You heard it. You can't unhear it. Deal with it. Roaches start moving up to kill the front wall. The army here is distracted. The roaches realize, wait a minute, I can hit these from the back line. So you got roaches from the front, roaches from the back, a warp prism trying to do God's micro, but it's not going to be enough. There's just too much at this point, and even with weapon upgrades and plasma shields, I got some comments on that if this game continues to go on further, but I don't know if it will. Though the top attack has been staved off, even if this attack stops, the third base is still going to go down. The probes have still been gutted raw. There just really isn't a follow-up fight. This is a last stand, as it were. So the plasma shields I find really fascinating, because they are objectively better than armor if you're not really using zealots in your composition, which we can see isn't the case here. But now zealots are being warped in desperately. That's it for the game. GG. AlphaStar will go on to rank against Grandmaster players. Thank you for watching these videos, guys. If you want to see more, or if you want to see another series like this, obviously subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you on the next one.